The ISM just had its hottest print in over 2 years. So does that mean that the Bitcoin struggle is over? Well, we're going to get into all that. I'm going to do an interesting case study of my macro regime engine and how it performed through COVID. We're going to replay some of those days during 2020 and see how the system reacted so you can get a better understanding for how it works and why it works the way it does. But we have a lot of stuff to get into today. So I'm just going to cut out all the intro and we're going to jump right to it. And to start, let's take a look at how we're positioned, because for stocks, we are still Goldilocks, still extremely bullish, and I have not sold or moved any positions in stocks. You can see we have 29 votes for risk on and 7 votes for risk off. So all is well and good there. In terms of Bitcoin and the trend, well, lo and behold, we are still bearish. And when our system exited last week, I think it was Thursday night, I was out at dinner and loaded up Thinkorswim to sell my positions, but we avoided a, max 12% drawdown almost. So pretty happy with how the system performed there. And obviously, given the dynamic position sizing that we've included, this would have been a very, very small loss. So keeping an eye on this, obviously, I do want Bitcoin to succeed, but currently still in a bearish downtrend and no real changes there. In terms of gold, still extremely bullish. Yes, we've nuked from the top from 5,400 back down to about 5K and have since sort of recovered. I haven't done anything. I've kept my gold position the way it is. And before we take a look at the portfolio, I did want to look at the stress dashboard, and things look pretty good. The dollar has significantly rebounded after Kevin Warsh was nominated as the potential next Fed chair. The SOFR Fed fund spread has spiked up a little bit, but nothing really too major there to worry about. So before we go into the case study for the macro regime engine, I did want to share the portfolio just so you can see that nothing has changed here. I have not made any changes, still in the gold position. I am still in my put spread for Bitcoin. And the only reason I'm in my put spread for Bitcoin still is because I'm at a max loss right now. So there's nowhere to go but up. This is a defined risk strategy. You can look up bull put spread on YouTube or on Google or whatever and see how this actually works. But there's no reason for me to sell. I have 17 days left. So if we do recover, this has the potential to either break even or make some money. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. For SPY, still haven't changed anything. I'm still holding my bull put spread, still holding my gold position, and still holding my SPY position, along with some calls that I sold a couple of weeks ago. And then USFR is just how I hold my cash in between. So that's the portfolio. And I did want to do a quick case study of the macro regime engine and how it performed through COVID. So this is 2019 July to basically August 31st, 2020. And you can see COVID here very clearly, a 33% drop in S&P 500. And what I wanted to do, because here where we currently at September 2nd, I am doing a replay here, and you can see we're back in reflation and back bullish. We entered right here back on May 27th. We got chopped out for one day and then got back into the trade. But what I thought was really interesting here was if you select, let's go a few bars back actually, you can see how the system performed. So even here, a couple of days before it went risk off, you can already see the scoring down here on the bottom right. We had 23 votes for risk on, but 18 votes for risk off. And if I go here slowly through time, you can see the numbers changing. Now it's 21 for risk on and 20 for risk off. So while we're technically still bullish, the numbers or the signal strength has deteriorated drastically. And you can see the day before we go risk off, the count is almost even. And lo and behold, on February 21st, the system flips to deflation, risk off, and the count goes higher for the risk off votes. And that's it. You're out of the position here at 3340 on the S&P. And the system allowed you to avoid this insane 30% drawdown. If you had no system here and you were just kind of vibe trading, you would have thought, okay, maybe this is the bottom, right? There's a clear support level. It was back here in June 2019, and I'm going to buy here because I think we've bottomed. We're going to have a V reversal. Well, this just continued even lower. Huge V reversal there, potentially continued back down. And you can see the votes now are super strong for risk off. 28, I can't even do the math, 27 there for risk off and 9 for risk on. Again, this finally bottoms out here at 22.20. Absolutely insane. Before we start finally basing, reversing, you can see kind of the votes are beginning to slowly increase for risk on. And then finally, you can see the votes start flipping a little bit, but still mostly risk off, risk off, risk off. And by this point in May, you have kind of a mixed signal strength, but still clearly risk off. And starting towards the end of the month, you really start to see some of the bullish votes come in. So if you keep your eyes here on the bottom right, you can kind of see how the voting system works. And then in May 27th, we flip into chop for a couple of days, go back risk off, and then finally go risk on at the end of May. So that's how the system performed. And then, if we continue to play this out, you'll see that this ended up being a plus 16% move up to the highs here, and just absolutely phenomenal in terms of how the system has performed. This is exactly what you wanted to see. And I think this is just a really interesting case study because it's so jarring to be able to kind of sell the top here, and the system figured out that things were not great underneath the surface. Again, this is kind of the engine under the hood. This is 8 and 16 of the 25 plus inputs that go into the voting and the scoring here. So I just thought that was a nice, interesting little case study in terms of how this performed specifically during COVID, which was obviously a black swan event. So that's pretty much that. And I hope that helped you at least make sense a little bit of why I have so much confidence in the macro regime engine and why it is sort of the gem in terms of running my portfolio. Cool. With all that stuff out of the way, I did want to talk about the ISM print because we did have a 52.6 print. So a huge beat and the highest since 2022. And absolutely massive. We've been waiting for this, what seems to be like forever. This was the whole theory last year, was the ISM needs to break out so Bitcoin can break out. But I wouldn't get too head over heels just yet. This will take time to propagate into risk assets. And I think the more important thing to note is that the Kevin Warsh nomination by the President of the United States kind of threw a wet blanket, I think, on a lot of the risk assets. We seem to be recovering now and everything is still bullish in terms of stocks, but for Bitcoin, obviously still struggling. And this is some AI slop that I put together. I think instead of reading through all this, this is in terms of Kevin Warsh being nominated. The more important things I've just kind of highlighted. So this is based on a multitude of interviews he's done over the years and kind of how he thinks. So let's start with the first one. Lean into AI-driven disinflation and a productivity boom. So if he can credibly point to this productivity story, meaning AI is improving and optimizing, so there's not as much need for as many people, companies are more profitable, yada, 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 it gives the Fed cover to keep rates lower on the front end of the curve without looking irresponsible. So ditching the Phillips curve, watch fiscal policy. Instead, Phillips curve is just a really dumb idea that low unemployment causes inflation. I can go into a whole tirade about this, but whatever, we don't have to really talk about it. Let's just talk about this. If the government is running loose fiscal policy, meaning big deficits, lots of spending, which is what the US government generally does, that's what should trigger the Fed to tighten, not low unemployment. This is a fundamental shift in what the Fed pays attention to. Now, just really quick, this is all speculation, right? This is given the fact that he actually gets the nomination and gets put in as the Fed chair and doesn't pivot or doesn't change his mind after entering. And remember, he's still only one person, one vote. He would have to sway the rest of the FOMC members to think like he thinks. So keep that in mind. Shrink the balance sheet aggressively. Warsh wants to keep running the balance sheet down, selling or letting those bonds mature without replacing them. This drains liquidity from Wall Street, which does two things. It reduces speculative leverage in financial markets and flattens the yield curve. So, think, K-shaped economy, better for the bottom portion of the American citizenry and not as good for Wall Street or financial markets. Overhaul bank regulation to favor small banks and mid-sized banks. This is aligned with Richard Werner's research, which argues that small bank lending is what actually drives the real economy in local communities, small businesses, and working class households, the people at the bottom of the K-shaped economy who've been squeezed by tight, high interest rates. So if treasuries are the preferred reserve asset, again, it creates structural demand for government bonds from the banking sector. The trade-off is that this policy mix, tight money, fiscal discipline, balance sheet runoff, is bearish. I repeat, bearish for risk assets and precious metals in the near term. Now, who cares? I guess is my summary. This is just fundamental analysis, a thesis about what could potentially happen with the new Fed chair and something to be aware of, but I don't care. I could care less if the ISM prints 100. Doesn't really matter to me. Also, please remember that the ISM is just a survey. It's just a survey that goes out to people who do purchasing for industrial companies and things like that. It is just a survey. It's not some magical data point that, basically runs everything. Do you think quant funds that control billions of dollars in terms of a portfolio are making any kind of huge systematic decisions based on one ISM print of 52? No. All right, cool. Rant over. Moving on. In terms of the liquidation maps, I don't think anything's really changed here. And honestly, I don't really care about the liquidation maps, but we can look at the short term. Kind of looks bullish in terms of there's a bunch of overhead. So that's cool. In terms of the on-chain data, macro heat phase still coming up. Long-term holders are still buying. And actually all this data, I think, is out of date. So let's refresh this really quick. Yeah, macro heat phase has come back a little bit. Let's take a look at short-term holders, long-term holders. So long-term holders have actually been buying while short-term holders have been selling, which is really good to see. Retail investor demand has spiked a little bit back up, and for the adjusted MVRV ratio still down in the dumps, which is actually good. That is kind of what you want to see. The UTXO block P&L count is at new lows, which is fantastic. And then supply and profit, I think, is definitely down in the dumps again, which is also good because it just means we're closer to a bottom than we are a top. In terms of momentum indicators, I looked at these earlier, and I can tell you that they're all still bearish, which makes sense. So if you have no system at all, I would say at least just use these. These give you a pretty good look into sort of how the trend is developing. I obviously don't know how these would actually backtest if you're using it for trading, but they work fairly well in terms of just capturing the major trend moves, which is kind of what you want to do. So really quick, I'll run through the tweets because it's just a lot of ISM slop. Every single crypto bull run ever, blah, blah, blah. ISM was above 50. Today we hit 52 point whatever. The other issue I have with this, and I'll just be quite honest with you, is Bitcoin has only been an asset class for, this is the fourth, I guess, ISM cycle. Bitcoin released in 2009 after the banking crisis. And can you really take 4 data points and run a $1 million portfolio based off that, just that, an N of 4? I'm not going to, but whatever. Maybe I should have gotten out of the market when the pro-crypto president started scamming us with meme coins. This is so true. I mean, the Trump coin, the Melania coins, absolutely ridiculous. That should have been a top signal. When everyone finally accepts it's a bear market, it's usually closer to the end than the beginning. Very, very true. This is just kind of reverse psychology in terms of sentiment. That's almost where people throw in the towel. We always behave the same way. Patience is needed. And I definitely agree with this. Sminston here, definitely respect Sminston. Amazing charts, amazing data analysis, but same thing, same reliance on the ISM. This just reminds me of the global M2 charts from last year. Everyone loved that, put their whole portfolios behind this correlation holding with M2 going up into the stratosphere, and Bitcoin's going to follow. We're going to 180K, 200K, easy. And then in June, we decoupled, and we haven't looked back since. And there's been no correlation with liquidity, global liquidity. There's been no correlation with stocks. There's been some slight correlation with tech, but that's pretty much it. It's been acting sort of as a completely detached asset class due to probably a number of different factors going on behind the scenes. You could say 1010, you can say Binance, CZ, whatever. It doesn't matter what the narrative is, but the trend is still bearish. When the system flips to bullish, I will obviously post an update on my Substack, but until then, I will sit on my hands and wait for the price action to tell me what to do and the systems to trigger and outperform. So that's it for this Tuesday update. Hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, if you stuck around with me, as usual, I really appreciate you. I'm trying to grow my small channel, so you know what to do with all the buttons down there. And as always, I'll see you next time on Friday for the next breakdown. Cheers.
Welcome to the Bitcoin Macro War Room, where we jack into the market mainframe and derug the narrative. Plug into the pipes, M2, DXY, inflation, momentum, Fresh prints, CPI, ISM, payrolls, rates, truth by facts, not vibes. Tweets and news rundown, meme to policy, curated, timestamped, tradable.
Welcome, you've got mail.
Copium not included. Roll the tape, let's invest like it's 1999 but with better charts.